My name is Lauren Michelle Finkle. I'm a writer and photographer from California, and this is my poem, Queering the Sonnet. I came about writing this poem a few years ago, and the background for a big chunk of my work is that I love retellings of folklore, retellings of mythology, or just stories that I grew up with. I think for so many queer people, you love the stories that you grew up with, but you'd want to see yourself in them. And so I love hearing stories that focus on a character that wasn't traditionally focused on in the first version of the story. So that's how I approach a good chunk of my work. And when it came to this particular poem, I usually write in free verse. And so I was trying to challenge myself a little bit to start with a form, even if I didn't carry it all the way to the end line, but just to be inspired by a more traditional format. And so I was thinking about a sonnet and what scene I could represent in a small amount of space compared to what I normally wrote. And I started kind of thinking about other sonnets, and the ones that I loved growing up and in school were so often love sonnets. And not all of them, but most of them were, from a male speaker to a women subject or vice versa. And I was thinking, gosh, what's the sonnet that would feel right to me that I would want to read or write? And so that was kind of how this came about. And I think the other thing that inspired this was the love language of food and cooking for people. It's such a common theme in my family. I think it's one of the ways that we show how much we care for each other, especially my grandparents, as they helped to raise me. It was one of the things that they could do for us, and they did it with so much love. So I think, having in a love sonnet, having that love be the language of food and saying, I want to sustain you and I want to care for you. That was kind of the core of this poem. Queering the sonnet. That day that no one goes out for milk, and it's just us women and some leftover fruit. She makes me a baked apple, and I feast on its flesh, watching for seeds so my stomach doesn't grow a pink lady apple tree. Soon it's every day she bakes an apple, all because one tired Sunday I said I could taste her love in the stubborn stems. The kitchen is red tile like chicken's blood. We stand and feed our husbands fresh melon and strawberries and oranges and pears. It is only when they're gone that she pulls the apples from the cabinet and makes mine, blushing at me like men weren't the ones created first.